Welcome back to Showcase. Today, we're going to be taking a look at RID-01, Omega Prime, God Magnus, and Blue Bolts. But before we get started, big thanks to SoyFan to Transformers XD for requesting this video. As always, if there's a character you want to showcase on, or a model you'd like me to make, leave it down in the comments, I'll try to get to all of them. Moving on to weapons, Blue Bolts comes packed. She's got a Gatling gun on one arm, a large cannon on the other, micro missiles on each shoulder, and a pair of cannons on each shoulder. Moving on to transformation, starting with Fire Convoy's cab. Bring the arms up, head in, legs up, then fold the feet and the wheels into place, and we've got the front of the fire truck. Moving on to Fire Convoy's super mode, lay them flat, head in, arms down, open up the arm panel, bring the legs up and in. Wheels down, ladder back, and connect up the cab, and we got the full fire truck. Moving on to God Magnus. Lay them flat, head in, legs back and in, arms into place, wheels down, bring out the cab, and we've got God Magnus in his car carrier mode. Finally, Blue Bolts, lay her flat, head in, arms down, legs up and back, then the cockpit and winds out, and we've got our jet mode. For gun mode, bring the cockpit in, arms down, legs down, open missile pods, and we've got Blue Bolt and gun mode. Omega Prime himself is a separate model with no alt mode, so we'll skip over him for now. And before we get into lore, just a quick explanation for some things. You might notice I'm not using the usual names for these guys. That's just to help them fit into the lore of Siege World better. I'm trying to include every character in it, and there's already a lot of Optimus Primes and Ultra Magnuses, so I'm using their Japanese names. And that would be Fire Convoy and God Magnus respectively, and their combined form is still going to be Omega Prime. Now moving on to the lore in my series, Siege World. Fire Convoy and God Magnus were naturally forged during a rare age of peace following the Third Great War. They were extremely rare due to their linked sparks. Joined sparks can mean a lot of things: shared pain, shared control over a body, or the ability to combine. It was just one of those rare phenomena that no one could really understand. Fire was able to combine with his trailer, making a sort of super mode, along with God Magnus being able to merge into them, and or super form they called Omega. Because of how unusual this was, they were put through extensive training to make sure they were stable. After a long evaluation, they were cleared and joined the Autobots, rising through the ranks fast. Eventually, they were given joint command of a platoon. Due to the combination ability, Autobot High Command officially granted them co-leadership, and their unit quickly became one of the most disciplined and effective groups in the Autobot military. During this time, they met Blue Bolts, a triple changer capable of transforming into a jet, a heavy weapon emplacement, and a highly armoured robot mode. Because of the size of her weapon mode, she usually stayed in the back lines, acting as artillery. But when they joined Omega's platoon, things changed. Omega began carrying her directly into battle, using her as a weapon. As time continued, the Autobots were getting in more and more conflict with rogue colonies, and the Autobot military was getting stretched very thin. That's when the Decepticons launched a full invasion, kicking off the Fourth Great War. They started by assaulting and taking almost all of the Autobots' defensive outer planets at the edge of Autobot space. The planet Omega and his platoon were on were the only planet that was able to hold off from the Decepticon attack. Even so, Autobot High Command pulled them back, knowing the planet would fall once the Decepticons launched a second assault. The Autobot Council started looking for a candidate to become the new Prime, and as Omega had proven himself in the last battle, he was appointed Prime. Traditionally, if a Prime resembled Optimus, the Prime of the First Great War, they would take up his name. But in a controversial move, Omega refused, choosing to keep his own name. Under Omega Prime's leadership, the war shifted from a losing fight to somewhat even ground. The Decepticons prepared for this war by mass-producing the Seeker Mark II units, cheap and expandable flyers. While effective at first, their weaker bodies meant they were only effective in large groups, which slowly became less feasible as the war continued. Later upgrades would bring them closer to the strength of standard bots, but that was too little, too late. Omega Prime managed to punch a hole in the Decepticon defenses and lay siege to their capital. When the Autobots began landing troops, Omega led the first wave. But as Omega breached the Decepticons' capital building, they activated their final plan. They'd hidden a massive planetary defense cannon underneath the building. Right before the gun fired, Omega managed to uncombine. Fire, through God Magnus, cleared the blast, but Blue Bolt, Fire, and the rest of the team were killed instantly. God Magnus survived, but had lost an arm. The Decepticons' leader, Gigatron, decided to finish him off. But he underestimated Magnus. Using one of Blue Bolt's severed arms as a weapon, Magnus blasted a hole straight through Gigatron's chest. Gigatron attempted to surrender, but in Magnus's rage, he didn't care. He rushed him, beat him to the ground, and tore his head off with his bare hand. After the war, God Magnus stepped down as Prime and retired to a distant colony, refusing to repair his arm. He lived peacefully until the next major conflict, when the planet was destroyed by a new Decepticon weapon. Magnus died defending the final evacuation shuttle. On Siege World, they were separated. Fire convoys spent years searching for Magnus before joining up with a group of Autobots protecting several towns. God Magnus settled in a desert region, often visiting Swerve's bar. And Blue Bolts became a delivery bot, using her overwhelming firepower to make sure every delivery arrived safely. And that's Fire Convoy, God Magnus, and Blue Bolts, along with Omega Prime. Blue Bolts is a retool of my Siege 6 shot. Omega Prime and God Magnus don't have any recolors yet, but I do plan on making them into Yellow Splendid Convoy. Next time, we're going to be taking a look at the G1 Horrorcons, so stay tuned.